Welcome to another episode of the Loadout Music Podcast, featuring in-depth interviews with a wide range of music personalities, from rock and roll Hall of Famers to Grammy winners and today's rising stars. Recorded from the Old Rock House in St. Louis, Missouri, here's your host, Aaron Perlott.
Welcome back to the Loadout Music Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Perlott, and today we have a very special guest, singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist Zsuzsanna Ward, and she is all about the dirty shine, or being authentic, embracing imperfections and vulnerabilities. She broke away from the major label system and founded her own label, Dirty Shine Records, and has a new record that's about to drop called, you guessed it, Dirty Shine. Welcome, ZZ. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be on the show.
Now, your given name is Zsuzsanna, or is it Zsuzsanna?
Neither. It's Zsuzsanna.
Zsuzsanna.
Yeah, it's Hungarian. So
Okay.
It's understandable that it's pretty hard to. You wouldn't know how to pronounce it unless you spoke Hungarian or could read Hungarian, because ZS is actually one letter in the Hungarian alphabet. So unless you speak Hungarian, you're obviously going to pronounce it the way that you did. So it's in a different language.
So I take it your parents then are of Hungarian descent, since it's such an unusual name?
Yeah, my mother is.
Okay, and then so you're originally from a town called Abington, Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, originally I'm from PA, but I grew up in Oregon pretty much. I moved there when I was 8. So
Okay.
at 23, I was there. So I'd say my most influential years were in Oregon, very rural Oregon. But yeah, I was born in Pennsylvania. My mom grew up in Philadelphia. My dad grew up in the suburbs of Philly. So
What took your family across country? Work?
my mom is a psychiatric nurse, and she basically, I think they wanted to go somewhere in countryside. They didn't want to be in the city anymore. They wanted a change of scenery. So they went to Oregon. She got a job transfer and we moved to Oregon. So that was it, really. I think they just wanted us to grow up in the country. So
Right on. And the Philly area, whether it's Conshohocken or out to Reading or what have you, it's not super rural, although it starts to get once you get in the middle of Pennsylvania.
yeah, I don't know. I didn't really spend that much time there, but I know that Oregon is definitely, unless you're in Portland, it's a lot of green. So
Yeah, and a lot of rain.
Yes.
So you started playing music when you were a kid, right? Because I know at one point you started doing vocals with your dad's band, but was your dad that was kind of like your gateway drug into music?
Yeah, my dad was always he was always into music. Even when we were in Pennsylvania, he had a recording studio in the house. When I was so young, I think we had a piano too. I didn't really know much about many music at that point. But then when I moved to Oregon, my parents really found themselves into the blues. So they listened to Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and Robert Johnson, and along with a lot of rock, Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones. And so they would listen to music all the time. They listened to music more than I listened to music. And so I was always around it. And then, yeah, so basically my dad was really into music, and he was also very encouraging to me to sing in front of people. He always was pushing me to not be nervous to sing in front of people. And then so once I kind of, I don't know, I guess people started to recognize that maybe I had some kind of talent, then I was singing in front of people a lot more. So,
But when you first started singing, though, it was, well, in public, it was with your dad's band, right? Is that right?
Yeah, it was with my dad's band, or it was little talent shows, anything, which wasn't a lot. It would be once a year, and my junior high and high school that I could perform once a year. Talk about being nervous. No pressure. And then there was a local town summer county fair talent show. Other than that, yeah, it was in the blues band. That's where I basically kind of like, I'd start out singing one or two songs. And when I was like 16, 18, I would sing a lot more songs, but we'd play like, depending on where we were, we'd play and it was all local stuff really. But sometimes we'd play 4-hour sets, like the longest sets ever, which was good. A lot of experience.
4-hour sets, right? I mean, having played 4-hour sets, they're just not fun. They're exhausting, and by the end of the night, you're just like, Jesus, I gotta sit down.
Yeah, they're super like that, but I know it's interesting. And now we play like, an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you're like, whoa, we like just played like my band will be like, we just played a legit show, because like a lot of times you play 45 minutes at I opened from Les Athridge last month and it was a 45-minute set, so the festival sets are shorter too, so it just depends.
Yeah. So when you're 16, that's kind of when you started venturing out on your own, and you were going to hip hop clubs in Eugene and started performing and singing, right?
Yeah. There was like any 16-year-old, you want to like kind of be like, okay, what's past this town? We have our licenses now. Where are we going? So me and my friends went up to this club in Eugene, and there was like this hip hop night going on where there were local artists rapping and there were dancers, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I went up to them afterwards. I was like, hey, like let's sing, like I should sing with you, like we should do something together. And they're like, yeah, whatever, crazy girl. And then I just kept bugging them and annoying them until I finally got on one of their records. And then I was kind of like in that crew, even though it was like an hour and a half away. Yeah. So any shows we would play, it was a lot of people basically. So it was like, when I say crew, it was like, I think it was like 22 people. It was like a lot of people and rap artists. And like, there was one male singer that was like singing hip hop hooks, and then like me, and like, we'd put on like, concerts and stuff, and we'd open for Mike Jones and like Naughty by Nature. Not all 22 of us. That was only like a few of us, but we would just, I would get opportunities singing around in Eugene through that. So that's kind of how I got into rap in some way. I was kind of into rap already with my brother, because my brother loved rap and he had like a CD collection. Yes, sounds ancient, right? A CD collection, those big old folders with like 4 CDs in each side, just like, and he'd like make like these, these collections of like Nas and Jay-Z. And it was like, so I got to really like study up and like listen to a lot of rap music. So that was kind of like my introduction to performing, though, was playing with them and playing my dad's blues band.
Yeah. And so your relationship with your brother, that's what really kind of took you from being very, I guess, centered on blues and kind of classic rock into rap, which kind of explains a lot about your stylistic, the diversity of your style.
Yeah, it's never really been like straight up blues or straight up rock. My stuff has always been kind of like this mishmash combination of different genres, because I don't know, I just make music that I think is that moves me, that I think is badass. I'm not making music to like fit into a genre or sound like somebody else. So yes.
And so, I mean, it's so hard today too, with kind of where radio is gone. I mean, you've got things like Sirius that has these very specialized channels, but one, I think it because people are lazy, they're always trying to kind of slot music into some little corner. But it's also hard to find that built-in audience of what used to exist on radio today, with different styles. Has it been difficult for you with your unique style and the diversity that you bring to it, to build your audience? Has it been a real grind?
I don't know if it's been a grind as far as building my audience. I think that which is kind of what you're saying. Like I've been able to build an audience that really loves my music and the diversity of it, and how it kind of touches on these different boxes, because I think the fan doesn't care, right? Like the fan's not thinking of genres. The people that think of genres are like the Grammys or the radio stations. So in that way, yes, which is what you're asking, like, has it affected? I'm sure it has in some way. That it's not like, oh, where exactly do we play her? Do we play her in pop radio? Do we put her in AAA? Do we put her in alternative? Like, I hate that stuff. And it exists. You know what I mean? It's part of it. So has that affected how many people listen to my music? Sure, I'm sure in some way it has, you know.
Yeah. And before we get away from this, I need to go back to one thing about your early experimentation, getting up on stages. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the hat you're wearing, because your relationship with a fedora it kind of, you were talking before about your confidence, and that was one of the pieces that kind of helped you somehow find your confidence, right?
Yeah, I used to get like really nervous on stage. Like I would literally have tremors. Like I would shake so much I couldn't control like my voice as well as I wanted to. And yeah, my dad wore like a fedora when he'd play the blues, and then like, Muddy Waters wore a fedora. And so, there's like video of me that I've posted on my Instagram before, like my dad's sitting there playing harmonica when I'm like 8, and he's like sitting by the fireplace playing hard with like a fedora on, and I like have a fedora on with like a white button down, and I'm like walking around trying to play harmonica. Like, yeah, I was like something since I was a little kid, like that I started wearing, and it started kind of feeling like my cape, like I was a superhero. Like it gave me some level of protection in some way. And is it kind of like a vice now? Like in a way, I guess. Like I can go on stage without it. I have before. The last tour I did, I went on stage without. It was probably the first time in like 10 or 12 years I've ever gone on stage without it. So for me, it kind of symbolizes that. It symbolizes, just the sense of empowerment. So
Yeah, well, I mean, it's also become kind of a signature for you stylistically. I mean, I think there's almost an expectation from your fans that, what kind of hat what's special about the hat she's going to be wearing today or tonight or what have you.
Yeah, and over time, I've learned how to. I was always really particular about like what shape I would wear of a fedora, and sometimes I thought it was hard, especially over the last 10 years. They're way more popular now. There's way more people making them. There's way more people wearing them. But like, you have to go back like 10 years. Like the only fedoras you were getting were from like Broner. Like this was like Broner, Gorin Brothers. Like girls weren't really wearing hats like this. So like, I was like, I want to make my own hats, and I had to learn. So I learned from a milliner, and I learned how to do it. And then I figured out the shape that I really loved, and I have my own blocks now, and I make my own hats and I sell them on my website. I don't have as much time as I would love to have to make them, because they're quite time consuming, and I'm a mom now. So I would love to be like, oh, I'm just going to sit around and sell, but it's just not going to work like that. But yeah, so I have like a very long history with hats.
Yeah. So let's I want to dive a little bit into kind of your evolution as an artist. I know you're on your third album, at least the ones that are streaming. I believe the first one was Till the Casket Drops. Then you had The Storm in 2017, and then the latest record, once you fully release it, is going to be Dirty Shine. I'm curious, the experiences you had with your first two records that has driven you to start your own label now, and whatever else has kind of led to that change.
Yeah, I was signed for 10 years, and it was a good home for me. I love the people there, and they did a lot for me. So I'm really appreciative of everything that we went through together. But then after the pandemic, we just decided to part ways, and I was like scared, obviously, because I was like, change is very scary, and how do I keep putting music out now? It's like, what do I do? But being in that place where you don't know how it's going to work out, you don't know what's going to happen, and then you figure it out, and then you start putting music out on your own label, like it's just like the best story ever. And I'm so happy that it's mine because you start to feel like it makes you feel really proud that you did that and are doing that. I'm making music videos with my brother, who's an independent film director. We've made 4 together. And, we're doing everything ourselves. I'm funding everything by myself. And also like, writing the treatments for these music videos, finding everything. I'm craft services. I get the snacks. Our friends are acting in the music videos. But it's not that foreign to me to do all these things because like when I grew up, like I was hustling. Like I was selling my demo CDs in parking lots for years. I was that girl who's walking up to you where you're walking into like a shopping center. Like, hey, like, have you heard of my music? Like walking up to people like cold like that. Like you get like a lot of confidence from that, like getting over your fear of talking to people and also getting rejected like a lot. And like I would busk on street corners and play my music. Your people are not listening to you, like, and people are listening to you. And people are listening to your music in the parking lot and buying CDs from you too. So I think because like I would book my own shows, like before I ever got signed, I was hustling. I was like, I believe in myself. I don't care if you don't believe in me. That's okay. I'm going to keep going. This is what I was born to do this. There's nothing else I'm going to do with my life. So I think because of that, like I never changed. Like, even though I was with a label, I was working my butt off. I was hustling. I was wearing a lot of different hats and, trying to learn about every facet of the business while I was doing that, grinding, going out there, playing shows, doing radio, early morning stuff, late concerts at night. It's a grind. It's not always a grind, I guess. Like some people, maybe they like hit it really, really, really big, but it has its downfall too, because then maybe you don't know what's going on around you and you got to figure it out later. Like, oh no, I don't know how to do any of this stuff now. And like, that's not going to last forever. So everybody's story is different. And, mine's in a pretty exciting place now. I have a lot more freedom, which is very, very cool.
If you met you today, the aspiring, hustling you of yesteryear, at 20, handing out CDs, and today, like it's hard to find a CD player. What advice would you give yourself, looking back and then thinking about like the reality of today?
I think get out. I think you got to go meet people. You got to network. Like, I think the things that I've learned over the years, like I would have never learned that where I was. I had to get out of that little town and meet people and learn. I mean, I remember when I first moved to Los Angeles, I met Evan Bogart, and like I started working with Evan. I started working with his crew. I started writing with all of these songwriters.
How old were you at that point when you moved to Los Angeles?
23. So I would go into all these writing sessions and I was so nervous. I didn't know what I was doing, but you start writing with people and you start learning and you start getting better at your craft, and then, I mean, the stuff I've learned on the road is invaluable, just like traveling and touring and hustling and, meeting fans and, all of it. It's a lifestyle. Like you have to know how to live it. You have to know how to take care of yourself, and you have to know how to be resilient, and you have to know when you go out there on the road, like some people crash and burn because you can't party too hard. If you party too hard, then you're not going to be able to sound good for the next show. So there's a lot of stuff you learn really quick. I would have never learned all that stuff had I not, moved, I think. And just, it didn't even have to be a move, right? Like if you grow up in LA or New York or Nashville, like you're already there. You're already around a bunch of people that are writing, that are playing music, but it just pushes you to another level,
Yeah. Well, you mentioned engaging with your fans, and you have a very unique relationship with your fans. And it's become, very much, like a community. Is it true that the dirty shine motto, which you've kind of embraced around your brand, the brand that is you, did it come from the fan community? Where did that talk a little bit about the fan community and how that dirty shine motto has been kind of almost like a rallying cry for it?
Yeah, it really came from them. I mean, I think that like over the years, like when I first started putting music out, like here I am, this girl mixing hip hop and blues, wearing a fedora, like I'm a weirdo, like like who was doing this? And so I think that like people that come to my shows and stuff, like they feel like, they feel like they're different. They're coming from all different like walks of life, and then they can, they can fit in and be, whoever they are. So Dirty Shine really was like embracing your authentic self, like whatever that is. Like I chat with my fans on Discord like every day. I'm like, good morning guys, like what's up? Like there's people on there, like they're like, we have our own little world in like Discord that we're always in, and they come to shows. And it's really important to me to connect with the fans in like a lot of different ways. Like also like my website, like I made my own website. Like it's important to me that like when you go to my website, like it connects all the dots to almost all my social media and my tour and everything. Like the merch that I make, like I design all the merch. For every music video, I design merch. I make my hats. I sell music video merch. So I sell things that I wore in the music video. Like I just want it to all connect. You know what I mean? I don't want, like, I even like literally like for the tour, I'm like, if anybody's having a problem buying tickets, like hit me up with this email, like I'll help you. Like, like the last thing I want is for people to be like emailing, other
Yeah.
people trying to get answers on things, and it happens a lot. Like you have other people on your team that are like looking out for you and stuff. And I don't, sometimes like you might lose a fan because it gets out of your control, So I really try to stay in touch with my fans as much as possible. I mean, they're even, they'll tell me on my Discord if they see anything, or people ask questions on my Discord, like, and my other fans will be able to like give them information. So.
All right, New Jack Hustler. So tell me this, now that you're a mom too, as you mentioned earlier, how do you balance? I mean, you're like giving me anxiety.
Did you hear that?
Yeah,
So
no, I did.
and, whenever they're not here, so now I'm screwed. But anyways, yeah, how do I do it? Well, at first, when I first had him, I was like, oh my God, what do I do? This is insane. Do you have kids?
I have two, yes.
So like it's the biggest mind screw when you first have a kid. At least it was for me. Like I didn't know what I was doing, and also like nobody could prepare you for that. Like people, like, so I remember people would be like, you knew this was like going to be really intense. You don't know what it's going to feel like until suddenly you're sitting there and you're like, oh crap, where I thought I'd be like have this baby in the studio where I was writing, like I can't have this baby in the studio when I'm writing. Like it doesn't work like that. Like your life, in ways you can kind of like do your life and like have your kid there, but like you need help. Like you can't, you can't just like, they don't just roll with you, like, and you're able to work on stuff. So it's really important to me also though that I'm like, I'd say that I'm probably, I don't know, everybody's different. There's stay-at-home moms, there's people that work full-time. It's important to me to be a part of my son's life and not just like have him go off with somebody else and me be working on my music all the time. I don't want to be that mom either. So I try to, bring him to shows. He's coming on tour with me. And it's a balance, I would say. My life has always been my life has never been a 9 to 5. It's always been like, you go on tour for 6 weeks and you're out there and you're grinding, and then you come home and you're either writing but you're at home, you're your own boss, like no one's telling you to go write. You're going and you're writing because you love it. It's the same thing as how my life is now. Like I was just working on my next album in July, like grinding the entire month. I had help and I was in the studio every day out there where my son was like, Mama working all the time. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to cry. Plus I had like 6 one-offs in July. So I had a show every weekend and then I was in the studio every weekday. But the thing is with my life, like my life is like blocked in really weird ways. So it'll be like, boom, July was like crazy. And then August, it's like, I'm with him a lot of this month, taking care of him, so it's just different. And I like it that way. I'm fine with it being that way. Cause the truth is, like, I never know when I'm going to get a show. I never know when I'm going to have to leave. So my life is not typical. But you know, you just keep hustling. You just keep going. And like, you know, from being a dad, it's like life goes on. You just figure it out and you go, you know. And it's like, well, I think the funny thing is when you have kids, it's like every day you wake up, it's like, you know, there's crying and there's screaming, and you're like, wow, let's go over here. Da, 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 da. Like, you just, your speed changes. It like kicks into a different gear. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
yeah.
no, there's you, when you have children, you give up a significant part of yourself for the better of that child. You know, there's an unselfishness that you have to relinquish, and to make sure that quite frankly, you don't fuck your kids up. And as parents, as hard as most of us try to do that, to not screw our kids up, at the end of the day, we still do anyhow. I mean, you know, no matter how great a parent, you always find a way, whether it's through nurture or nature. You know, there's always challenges that arise, things you can't get out of the way, and no one's perfect. I mean, we all have imperfections, and parenting is an imperfect science.
Yeah, no, but you know, the thing is, this funny about the way that I parent is like, I'm very like, I've always kind of been a very independent person, like have a lot of confidence. And I kind of take that into the way that I parent. Like, I don't parent a way that is okay for other people. I just do what's good for me. You know what I mean? I do what works for us. And I'm pretty unforgiving when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I'm happy that I'm that way. You know, like, I mean, when I told his teachers that I was going to bring him on tour, you know, I think one of the teachers was like, or the principal or whatever of the school was like, well, why don't you like leave him home with someone? And I'm like, wow, I didn't say this. I was like, oh, well, I'm going to bring him on the road. But in my head, I was like, why would I ever do that? Like, he'll learn so much more going on a freaking tour bus, going all over the US, playing rock shows with his mom. I mean, like, come on. Like, what, I'm going to leave him home? No way. I mean, but like, some people won't understand that, you know, but because it's not like a normal life, but I don't care. I think it's cool.
I think it was really cool that you said, you're not the principal of me, man. You know, I'll show you.
Oh my God. There's just a part, I hated school so much. Like, I still have part of me where I'm like, oh man, I wish I didn't have to take you to school, but also not homeschooling. So that's how
Well, let's talk about the new record. Aptly named Dirty Shine. You've dropped 4 songs off it. I think On One, which featured Jean Doe, was the first song. Ride or Die is out. Forget About Us, Baby Don't. But you haven't dropped the rest of the record. Well, just especially because this is the first record where you've been fully in charge of not only the music, the production. I know you play multiple instruments, but you're also the promoter. You're everything now. You're the show. So talk about this record artistically, and then talk about, I'd love to hear about the business end, because it's been I'm sure a new experience for you.
Yeah. I think creatively, this album is a collection of songs from different times. There are songs that I am able to put out now because I want to. And there are songs that are new, and there are songs that I've loved for a long time that I haven't had the opportunity to share. So there are, and also I would just say it's very much like, I was not trying to like fit in with this record, like in any way was I like, okay, well, like what radio station is going to play this song? Not where I'm at in my head. I just don't care. Like, I just don't care. Like, I just want to put out music that I love, because I can't control the rest. And it's, you know, it's a crazy industry right now. I mean, with social media being where it is, with radio formats changing all the time, like I would be a fool to try to keep up with that. Like, you just have to run your own race and do your own thing. So I am really proud of this collection of songs. I think they're super badass. And I hope people really like the visuals that I've been putting out alongside the releases. And yeah, my goal is to really just continue to put out music quicker than I was before, because now I can kind of do what I want, and I don't have to wait so long in between albums. Because, I just creatively have all the freedom in the world. So it's kind of where I'm at.
Are you fearful in any way of, when you were with Hollywood Records, there's this machine with record companies. Are you fearful, worried, nervous about, just getting this out there? Or are you thinking to yourself, you know what? I'm going to go sell out shows anyways. That's the best way to promote a new record. And my fans are going to come out for me. So, it'll work.
Yeah, I'm not fearful, because I think at this point, like, I'm really proud of like what I've done for my own personal goals. I cannot control everything. I think that my goal is I love being creative. I have to be creative. It's just part of my body. Like, I wouldn't be okay not making music. I'm so happy that I was in the studio in July working on my new album. I'm so happy when I'm on set getting to make a music video and put that out. And I'm so excited that I'm going on tour. It's like, that's what makes me happy. All that other stuff, as far as like, this big question whether it's going to do good, like, I don't look at it like that. I look at it as my legacy, as what I'm doing after this album. You know what I mean? And as long as I get to go make that album and put out the next album, I'm happy. That's all I want to do, and I'm happy with that kind of being the goal, because the other stuff is just, it's soul crushing. Like, it really is. And it's around you all the time when you're with, a big group of people, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're hearing about it all and stuff. And so there's pros and cons to it, but I'm pretty happy with where I'm at now.
All right, Zsuzsanna, pride of Hungary.
Nice.
Pride of Hungarians in the US. Thank you so much for being on the Loadout. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. We miss anything? Do we miss anything? I think we covered a lot of ground.
Yes, I would just say to listeners, like, I'm going on tour in September. It's called the One Hell of a Night Tour. We are working our way through the East Coast and up into the Midwest. And it starts on, I think, September 6th in Philadelphia. And then in November, I'm hitting the West Coast, doing Colorado and up in the Northwest. And so I would just say, like, if you check out my music, come see me on tour. So.
Zsuzsanna Ward, it's been a honor, pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for making time.
Thank you. Have a nice day.